Perhaps one of the most universal 40k experiences is the guilty feeling of getting new models even when you have a massive stock of gray miniatures waiting to be painted. For the past year or so, I've made it my policy to only buy new models when I have painted all my others, however I ignored my existing 3000 point Tau collection for this rule. I bought these models years ago and have still only painted a fraction of them. This video, I'm going to continue my long campaign against my pile of shame by painting these 10 Pathfinders. I like the idea of these models being my Hunter Cadre's scouts, so I'm going for a swampy camo pattern for these guys. A couple of them were partially painted from a fleeting tinge of inspiration that came to me years ago, and in this video I will keep this color scheme and finish the job. A good rule of thumb is to paint the inner layers first, so I started by painting all the fatigues that go under the armor Castellan Green, its dark hue making it great for effective camo in a swampland. Next I put Eshin Gray on the outer armor panels and their helmets. I like the dark gray for the camo theme, but I felt black would be overdoing it, making this shade a satisfactory choice. These first two steps took me the longest, so be prepared to have multiple painting sessions getting everyone to this point. I then mixed Zandri Gray and Eshin Gray for the blue-gray color of the flesh on their hooves, using standard Eshin Gray for the nails. Next I painted all their carbines Abaddon Black. Tau commonly have weapons the same shade as their primary color, but I wanted some extra variation, so I went with black instead. On the railguns, I only painted the outer casing black, leaving the exposed parts of the inner barrel for later. While I had it on my palette, I also painted all the Pathfinders' belts black. Next I painted all the bits I wanted metallic with Leadbelcher. I like to use metal very sparingly on Tau because unlike most other factions, they have a more standard sci-fi look with few metallic parts on weapons and armor plates, unlike many factions in the Imperium with a more brutalist appearance. After that I went back to the railguns, painting the inner beams Administratum Gray. The lighter shade will help the glowing effect I want to add later be more vibrant. Then I painted the extra bits on the chasuis, like the holstered pistol and sheath dagger, painting the grip strap Zandri Dust and the pistol Abaddon Black, and everything else Eshin Gray and Leadbelcher. At this point these models could be considered battle ready, and I could stop here and base them and move on to the next item in my vast collection of gray plastic space communists. However, I wanted to take these models further. The first thing I did to take these models to the next level was dry brush all their fatigued Zandri Dust, creating a green-brown color fitting for their grassy, muddy environment. After that, I edge highlighted all their armor panels Administratum Gray. I'm not a super precise painter, so my edge highlighting can look a little rough in some areas. That being said, I still think it looks worlds better than no edge highlighting at all. For the carbines, I highlighted with Mechanicus Standard Gray. If using Citadel paints, my general rule of thumb is edge highlighting with a paint 3 shades lighter than the base coat. So in this case, the guns are Abaddon Black, so 1 shade lighter would be Corvus Black, then Eshin Gray, then Mechanicus Standard Gray at 3 shades lighter. Tau armor usually has markings that identify their sept, the one I collect being Delith, which has green sept markings, so I use Moot Green to paint 2 thin stripes on each helmet. I painted the insides of the railgun barrels Soulstone Blue, also putting small amounts on the sides of the barrel to attempt a glowing effect. This was a very simple glow effect, but I still think it looks better than it did without it. Finally, I used Spiritstone Red on a couple of the panels and buttons located on each model's backpack. Now it's time to base these models. I'm going for swamp-like bases, so I'll be using Hobby Grass, Hobby Shrubs, Hobby Sand, Rhinox Hide paint, Ardcoat technical paint, and wood glue. A fair warning, Hobby Grass gets everywhere and I needed to vacuum my desk after basing. I started by painting all the base rims brown, then giving the top of each base a coat of Rhinox Hide for underlying mud. For the rest of these steps I used an old, worn-out paintbrush because everything that follows would ruin a good one. I spread wood glue on the spots I wanted there to be grass, and also chose 4 bases to have a shrub on them, which I placed in one of said globs of glue. After the shrubs were attached, I spread Hobby Grass on top of the glue spots and shook off all the excess. With the grass done, it was time to make the mud look more convincing. I mixed Rhinox Hide paint with Hobby Sand until I had a chunky yet spreadable mixture, mimicking mud. This was then spread onto the areas on each base with no grass. Finally, I wanted the mud to look wet and glistening, so I used Ardcoat, which is a paint-on glossy finish, to coat each muddy patch, making them look like wet mud instead of just dirt. With that, the Pathfinder team was finished. I love the way these turned out, and I think their camo fits with the base while also being distinct enough to make their colors pop. I hope this video inspired you if you have a painting project, or maybe it was just interesting enough to watch all the way through. But either way, please consider leaving a like and subscribing. This is a brand new channel, so I would appreciate any feedback you may have in the comment section. Thanks for watching.